Bagan is an ancient city located in the Mandalay region of Burma. From the 9th to 13th centuries, the city was the capital of the Kingdom of Pagan, the first kingdom to unify the regions that would later constitute modern Myanmar. During the kingdom's height between the 11th and 13th centuries, over 4,000 Buddhist temples, pagodas and monasteries were constructed in the Bagan Plains alone, of which the remains of over 2,200 temples and pagodas still survive to the present day. The Bagan Archaeological Zone is a main draw for the country's nascent tourism industry. It is seen by many as equal in attraction to Angkor Wat in Cambodia. Etymology: Bagan is the present-day standard Burmese pronunciation of the Burmese word pu.gam, derived from Old Burmese pu.gam. Its classical Pali name is Arimadernapura. Its other names in Pali are in reference to its extreme dry zone climate, Tatadisa, and Tampadapa. The Burmese chronicles also report other classical names of Thiri Pisaya and Tampawadi. History, 7th to 13th centuries. According to the Burmese chronicles, Bagan was founded in the 2nd century CE, and fortified in 849 CE by King Pyenbia, 34th successor of the founder of early Bagan. Mainstream scholarship however holds that Bagan was founded in the mid to late 9th century by the Myanmar, who had recently entered the Irrawaddy Valley from the Nanshe Kingdom. It was among several competing Pyu city-states until the late 10th century when the Burman settlement grew in authority and grandeur. From 1044 to 1287, Bagan was the capital as well as the political, economic and cultural nerve center of the Pagan Empire. The influence the city had can be demonstrated in the archaeological evidence in the brickwork. Bagan did not appear to pay tribute to other villages, indicating it held a higher place in the settlement hierarchy of the state. Over the course of 250 years, Bagan's rulers and their wealthy subjects constructed over 10,000 religious monuments in an area of 104 square kilometers in the Bagan Plains. The prosperous city grew in size and grandeur, and became a cosmopolitan center for religious and secular studies, specializing in Pali scholarship and grammar and philosophical psychological studies as well as works in a variety of languages on prosody, phonology, grammar, astrology, alchemy, medicine, and legal studies. The city attracted monks and students from as far as India, Ceylon as well as the Khmer Empire. The culture of Bagan was dominated by religion. The religion of Bagan was fluid, syncretic and by later standards, unorthodox. It was largely a continuation of religious trends in the Pyu era where Theravada Buddhism coexisted with Mahayana Buddhism, Tantric Buddhism, various Hindu schools as well as native animist traditions. While the royal patronage of Theravada Buddhism since the mid-11th century had enabled the Buddhist school to gradually gain primacy, other traditions continued to thrive throughout the Pagan period to degrees later unseen. The Pagan Empire collapsed in 1287 due to repeated Mongol invasions. Recent research shows that Mongol armies may not have reached Bagan itself, and that even if they did, the damage they inflicted was probably minimal. However, the damage had already been done. The city, once home to some 50,000 to 200,000 people, had been reduced to a small town, never to regain its preeminence. The city formally ceased to be the capital of Burma in December 1297 when the Myanmar Kingdom became the new power in Upper Burma. 14th to 19th centuries. Bagan survived into the 15th century as a human settlement, and as a pilgrimage destination throughout the imperial period. A smaller number of new and impressive religious monuments still went up to the mid-15th century but afterward, new temple constructions slowed to a trickle with fewer than 200 temples built between the 15th and 20th centuries. The old capital remained a pilgrimage destination but pilgrimage was focused only on a score or so most prominent temples out of the thousands such as the Ananda, the Shwezigon, the Sulamani, the Tulaminlo, the Tamayazaka, and a few other temples along an ancient road. The rest are thousands of less famous, out-of-the-way temples fell into disrepair, and most did not survive the test of time. For the few dozen temples that were regularly patronized, the continued patronage meant regular upkeep as well as architectural additions donated by devotees. Many temples were repainted with new frescoes on top of their original pagan-era ones, or fitted with new Buddha statues. Then came a series of state-sponsored systematic renovations in the Konbaun period, which by and large were not true to the original design, some finished with a rude plastered surface, scratched without taste, art or result. The interiors of some temples were also whitewashed, such as the Wat Bagan and the Ananda. Many painted inscriptions and even murals were added in this period. 20th century to present. Bagan, located in an active earthquake zone, had suffered from many earthquakes over the ages, with over 400 recorded earthquakes between 1904 and 1975. The last major earthquake came on July 8, 1975, reaching 8 mm in Bagan and Myanmar, and 7 mm in Nyon. The quake damaged many temples, in many cases, such as the pu.gam, severely and irreparably. Today, 29 temples and pagodas remain. Many of these damaged pagodas underwent restorations in the 1990s by the military government, which sought to make Bagan an international tourist destination. However, the restoration efforts instead drew widespread condemnation from art historians and preservationists worldwide. Critics are aghast that the restorations paid little attention to original architectural styles, and used modern materials, and that the government has also established a golf course, a paved highway, and built a 61-meter watchtower. Although the government believed that the ancient capital's hundreds of temples and large corpus of stone inscriptions were more than sufficient to win the designation of UNESCO World Heritage Site, the city has not been so designated, allegedly mainly on account of the restorations. Bagan today is a main tourist destination in the country's nascent tourism industry, which has long been the target of various boycott campaigns. The majority of over 300,000 international tourists to the country in 2011 are believed to have also visited Bagan. Several Burmese publications note that the city's small tourism infrastructure will have to expand rapidly even to meet a modest pickup in tourism in the following years. Geography. The Bagan Archaeological Zone, defined as the 13x8 km area centered around Old Bagan, consisting of Nyon in the north and New Bagan in the south, lies in the vast expanse of plains in Upper Burma on the bend of the Irrawaddy River. It is located 290 km southwest of Mandalay and 700 km north of Yangon. Its coordinates are 21°10 north and 94°52 east. Climate. Bagan lies in the middle of the dry zone of Burma, the region roughly between Shwebo in the north and Phaya in the south. Unlike the coastal regions of the country which receive annual monsoon rainfalls exceeding 2,500 mm, the dry zone gets little precipitation as it is sheltered from the rain by the Rakhine mountain range in the west. Available online climate sources report Bagan climate quite differently. Cityscape. Architecture. Bagan stands out for not only the sheer number of religious edifices but also the magnificent architecture of the buildings, and their contribution to Burmese temple design. The Bagan temple falls into one of two broad categories, the stupa-style solid temple and the gai-style hollow temple. Stupas. A stupa, also called a pagoda, is a massive structure, typically with a relic chamber inside. The Bagan stupas or pagodas evolved from earlier pu designs, which in turn were based on the stupa designs of the Anda region, particularly Amravati and Nagarjunakonda in present-day southeastern India, and to a smaller extent to Ceylon. The Bagan-era stupas in turn were the prototypes for later Burmese stupas in terms of symbolism, form and design, building techniques and even materials. Originally, an Indian Ceylonese stupa had a hemispheric body on which a rectangular box surrounded by a stone balustrade was set. Extending up from the top of the stupa was a shaft supporting several ceremonial umbrellas. The stupa is a representation of the Buddhist cosmos, its shape symbolizes Mount Meru while the umbrella mounted on the brickwork represents the world's axis. The brickwork pediment was often covered in stucco and decorated in relief. Pairs or series of ogres as guardian figures were a favorite theme in the Bagan period. The original Indic design was gradually modified first by the pu, and then by Burmans at Bagan where the stupa gradually developed a longer, cylindrical form. The earliest Bagan stupas such as the Bupaya were the direct descendants of the Paju style at Shrikstra. By the 11th century, the stupa had developed into a more bell-shaped form in which the parasols morphed into a series of increasingly smaller rings placed on one top of the other, rising to a point. On top the rings, the new design replaced the harmika with a lotus bud. The lotus bud design then evolved into the banana bud, which forms the extended apex of most Burmese pagodas. 3 or 4 rectangular terraces served as the base for a pagoda, often with a gallery of terracotta tiles depicting Buddhist Jataka stories. The Shwazigon Pagoda and the Shwasanda Pagoda are the earliest examples of this type. Examples of the trend toward a more bell-shaped design gradually gain primacy as seen in the Tamayazaka Pagoda and the Minglazadi Pagoda. Hollow temples. In contrast to the stupas, the hollow Gai-style temple is a structure used for meditation, devotional worship of the Buddha and other Buddhist rituals. The Gai temples come in 2 basic styles, one-face design and four-face design, essentially one main entrance and 4 main entrances. Other styles such as 5-face and hybrids also exist. The one-face style grew out of 2nd century Baikthano, and the 4-face out of 7th century Shrikstra. The temples, whose main features were the pointed arches and the vaulted chamber, became larger and grander in the Bagan period. Innovations. Although the Burmese temple designs evolved from Indic, Paju styles, the techniques of vaulting seem to have developed in Bagan itself. The earliest vaulted temples in Bagan date to the 11th century, while the vaulting did not become widespread in India until the late 12th century. The masonry of the buildings shows an astonishing degree of perfection, where many of the immense structures survived the 1975 earthquake more or less intact. Another architectural innovation originated in Bagan is the Buddhist temple with a pentagonal floor plan. This design grew out of hybrid designs. The idea was to include the veneration of the Maitreya Buddha, the future and 5th Buddha of this era, in addition to the 4 who had already appeared. The Tamayazaka and the Nami-Ethna Pagoda are examples of the pentagonal design. Notable cultural sites. Museums. The Bagan Archaeological Museum, the only museum in the Bagan Archaeological Zone, itself a field museum a millennium old. The 3-story museum houses a number of rare Bagan period objects including the original Mayazadi inscriptions, the Rosetta Stone of Burma. Anrataz Palace, it was rebuilt in 2003 based on the extant foundations at the old palace site. But the palace above the foundation is completely conjectural. Transport. Bagan is accessible by car, bus, rail, riverboat, and air. Most international tourists fly to the city. The Nyolnyu Airport is the gateway to the Bagan region. Several domestic airlines have regular flights to Yangon, Mandalay, and In Lake. It takes about 20 minutes by car from the airport to Bagan. Rail. The city is on a spur from the Yangon-Mandalay rail line. Myanmar Railways operates a train service between Bagan and Yangon, and Bagan and Mandalay. Buses and cars, overnight buses and cars also operate from to Yangon and Mandalay. Boat, an express ferry service runs between Bagan and Mandalay. Following the Irrawaddy River, the fastest ferry takes from around 10 hours. The service may run daily in peak periods and slower sailings with overnight stops are also available. Economy. Bagan's economy is based mainly on tourism. Because of boycotts against the previous military government, the Bagan region's tourism infrastructure is still quite modest by international standards. The city has a few international standard hotels and many family-run guest houses. Bagan is also the center of Burmese lacquerware industry, which to a large degree depends on tourist demand. Much of the lacquerware is destined for souvenir shops in Yangon, and to the world markets. Moreover, the lacquerware making process itself has become a tourist draw. Demographics. The population of Bagan in its heyday is estimated anywhere between 50,000 to 200,000 people. Until the advent of tourism industry in the 1990s, only a few villagers lived in Old Bagan. The rise of tourism has attracted a sizable population to the area. Because Old Bagan is now off limits to permanent dwellings, Much of the population reside in either New Bagan, south of Old Bagan, or New, north of Old Bagan. The majority of native residents are Burmans. Administration: the Bagan Archaeological Zone is part of New District, Mandalay Region. Sister cities: Luang Prabang, Siam Reap, Gallery. Notes. References: Ormthwin, Michael. Pagan: The Origins of Modern Burma. Honolulu, University of Hawaii Press. ISBN A0-8248-0960-2. Ormthwin, Michael. The Mist of Ra more +or-A, The Legend That Was Lower Burma. Honolulu, University of Hawaii Press. ISBN A978-0-8248-2886-8. Ministry of Culture, Union of Myanmar. Royal Palaces in Myanmar. Ministry of Culture. Retrieved February 19, 2012. Harvey, G. History of Burma, From the Earliest Times to March 10, 1824. London, Frank Cass and Company Limited. HTIN Ong, Maung. A History of Burma. New York and London, Cambridge University Press. Ishizawa, Yoshiaki. Yasushi Kono. Study on Pagan, Research Report. Institute of Asian Cultures, Sophia University. PA 239 Kala, Umaha Yezoen Mona Euro 3. Yangon, Yafai Publishing. Car Paragraph LLNER, Helmut. Axel Bruns. Myanmar. Hunter Publishing. PA 255. ISBN A973-88618-415-6. Lieberman, Victor B. Strange Parallels, Southeast Asia in Global Context, c. 800 Euro 1830, Volume 1, Integration on the Mainland. Cambridge University Press. ISBN A978-0-521-80496-7. Pan Iswi Star. Sotham Lin. Archaeologists to assist with Cambodia excavations. The Myanmar Times 26. Royal Historical Commission of Burma. Manan Yezoen Mona Euro 3. Yangon, Ministry of Information, Myanmar. Rao, V.K. 2013. The Terracotta Plaques of Pagan, Indian Influence and Burmese Innovations Ancient Asia 47, DOI, http://dx.org. 12310, Rao, Vinay Kumar. A Euro-OE Buddhist Art of Pagan, 2 vols. A Euro published by Agam Kala Publications, New Delhi, 2011. ISBN 978-81-7320-116. A Euro 5. Rao, Vinay Kumar. 2013. The Terracotta Plaques of Pagan, Indian Influence and Burmese Innovations Ancient Asia 47, DOI, http://dx.org. 12310, State Nair, Donald M. Sacred Sites of Burma, Myth and Folklore in an Evolving Spiritual Realm. Bangkok, 2011. ISBN A978-974-9863-60-2. Thantun. History of Burma, AD 1300 a Euro 1400. Journal of Burma Research Society XLII, Thantun. Studies in Burmese History 1. Yangon, Mahadaganur, Tortolot, Jonathan B. Dictators Defacing Famed Burma Temples. The National Geographic Traveller, UNESCO. UNESCO Courier 28. Paris, UNESCO. UNESCO. Bagan Archaeological Area and Monuments. UNESCO. Retrieved February 18, 2012. External links, Bagan in Photos, Pictorial Guide to Pagan. 2nd ed. Rangoon, Ministry of Culture, 1975. Pagan, Art and Architecture of Old Burma. Paul Strachan 1989, Kiskadale, Arran, Scotland. Glimpses of Glorious Pagan. Department of History, University of Rangoon, The Universities Press 1986. Bagan Map. DPS Online Maps. Myanmar, Photo Gallery, All About Bagan, All About Bagan, Free Travel Images of Bagan, The Life of the Buddha in 80 Scenes, Ananda Temple Charles Duwas L., Archaeological Survey of India, Annual Report, Delhi, 1913 14, The Art and Culture of Burma, The Pagan Period Drive Richard M. Kula, Northern Illinois University, Asian Historical Architecture, Bagan Professor Robert D. Fiala, Concordia University, Nebraska, Buddhist Architecture at Bagan Bob Hudson, University of Sydney, Australia, Photographs of Temples and Paintings of Bagan Part 1 and Part 2, Bagan Moving Postcards.